Hey, what's going on, guys? Should be live now. Um, Give me 1 second here. Let me tweet out the stream, and then can jump into it. This is it's an ugly slate. Not gonna lie. Not a lot of great value on this slate, so you're probably gonna have to play guys you don't really want to if you're going completely stars and scrubs. So, um, yeah, it's a bit ugly. Last night was surprisingly went really well for me, even with SGA. If I just get a half decent game there from SGA, I win a GPP. The Lakers Blazers stack, which I was super high on, I told you guys that was the direction I was going, went absolutely off. And like I said, you got ownership was so small on all those guys. Like CJ was 39%, Nurkic was 8%, Anthony Davis 7%, LeBron was like 10%. Just absolutely crazy. The ownership was that low. People, I don't know why, it was the same exact spread, Milwaukee versus Lakers in Portland, and people just felt more comfortable with that first game. So I'm not complaining. I'll take it all day. It was a really, really good night for me, even with SGA tanking my lineup. Almost won the night slate too. I only threw like that $15 entry in there, but I finished 26th out of like 13,000. It was really, really close. But yeah, that's basically the look back. So let's talk about this slate. And it's an ugly one. If you guys are new to the live stream, new to the channel, how it works is I'll go over all the news that we have so far. We're going to take a look at the Vegas odds. I'll give you guys a team-by-team breakdown, kind of mention cash plays versus GPP plays, and answer any questions you guys have at the end. Real quick, before I get into the analysis, if you guys could like the live stream, like the video right now, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, would really, really help me out. All right, so let's do it. Let's jump into it. We do have some somewhat big news of Gary Harris plans to play Sunday. Now, this is tricky because it's the late game, and we're not going to get news of like what his minutes will be if he's going to start, probably till way later. So it's a tricky one there. Lowry's available to play, and he won't have a minutes limit, and that's what we got so far. Celtics, they're starting their normal lineup, or normal, I guess, without Gordon Hayward, with Kemba Smart, Brown, Tatum, and Tyson. All right, so let's take a look at some of these odds now. Boston and Toronto, two pretty solid defensive teams going up against each other. It's a 2-point spread. Raptors are favorites. This one should be a fun one to watch, a 217.5 over-under. Then we have the Clips and the Mavs. So this game is the game that I think has the most upside, obviously, just looking at the odds. A 238.5 over-under. Clippers are 10.5-point favorites. In the late night hammer here, Denver, Utah, it's a 220 over-under. Utah, 2.5-point favorites. All right, so we'll start with Boston. And let's take a look at their main three guys here. So we have Tatum at 9.2, Kemba at 7.2, Brown at 7.1. If I'm just looking at those three guys and who's the guy that stands out for me for a cash game setting, it's probably Kemba Walker. I know he had a really good shooting day. I guess 50% is not amazing, but the thing I like about him is the floor is a little bit high because of his assist numbers. Even though he only had 4 in those last couple games, just a little bit higher than a guy like Jaylen Brown, who will literally only score the ball and get rebounds, where Kemba can do all 3. So the floor is slightly higher, and he will have the ball in his hands more since he is the point guard. So I feel a little bit more comfortable getting to Kemba Walker over Jaylen Brown. Now, the ownership is going to be a lot higher on Kemba than it is a guy like Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown will play more minutes, too. He played 42 and 41 minutes the last couple of games, whereas Kemba, I think, played 35 and 36. So if you want to get a pivot, if you want a Boston exposure and you want the low-owned Boston guy, go with Jaylen Brown. He will be the lowest owned of the 3. He is still a guy that can get you 40 to 50 fancy points. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I just think if you're looking for cash games and you look at those top 3 guys for their prices, it's probably Kemba that stands out to me at 7.2. Now, Tatum's at 9.2. This one intrigues me. I don't think he's going to be that popular today because of the matchup against Toronto. if he stays out of foul trouble, which actually is kind of a big if with him, he has been in foul trouble, I think, 2 of the games in that series against Philly, 2 of the 4. He'll play about 40 minutes. The issue, again, this is not Philly. This is a tougher matchup against Toronto. It's pretty solid defensively. So I think for that reason, and the reason that we have a guy like Luka on the slate, we have the Clippers guys in the slate, we have some of those Denver guys, I think Tatum as a spend-up goes a bit overlooked. So kind of like him for GPPs, just for that reason of I don't think he's going to be that popular. So yeah, brief overview of those 3 guys. I think Kemba is your cash game play. Tatum as a spend-up, a little bit more of a contrarian play, but it's still viable. And then Jaylen Brown, if you want to get, I think he will be the lowest owned of the 3, and you need like a guy in the mid-range. Could go to Jaylen Brown, but Kemba, in my opinion, is their cash game play. The other options here in Boston, Marcus Smart. I'm going to say this about a lot of guys in the 4 to 5K range. Like, he's fine. I don't know if the upside is massive on him when Kemba plays. I mean, Marcus Smart, always a guy during the regular season I would get to if Kemba was out when he was running the point. Because his upside is just so much higher when he runs the point guard versus the off guard where, again, the minutes will be there, but he's not a guy that's really out there for his offense. He's out there for his defense. So if you're going, I guess, the more balanced approach and you get to Marcus Smart at 5'6", I don't really have an issue. I don't know if he has that GPP winning upside. I mean, every once in a while, Smart will have like one of those games, but he needs like a 3-block, 3-steal game, in my opinion, to get you there. So no real issue with Smart. I just don't really think he stands out as an amazing play. Now, Daniel Tice is at 4-3. I think he's going to garner some ownership on the slate just for the reason of there is no value. There is literally no value on the slate. So if everything goes right, we probably get 25 minutes out of Tice. Not really the best spot against Toronto. Marc Gasol, solid, good defender, even at an older age. Ibaka's a good defender. Toronto as a team is good defensively, so it's not a great matchup. But if we get 25 minutes from a big, I think he looks like a safe value option. So I think Tice is in play for that reason of there's just no other value on the slate. So I think he will be a pretty popular value play, and I don't really have an issue with him at 4-3. Cantor's at 3-7. This is strictly a GPP play. If you wanted to get off of, I guess, I think Tice, again, will get some ownership. I don't know how much, but if you want to get off a somewhat chalky Tice and you want to pivot, it's Cantor, because he is a guy that can play 15 to 20 minutes, and he's a better point per minute guy than Tice is. The issue is that Brad Stevens really does not like playing Cantor. Like, the match against Philly, they needed him to guard Embiid. They don't necessarily need him to guard like a guy like Serge Ibaka. So I think there's like a 5% chance, 5 to 10% chance he gets a DNP. Just doesn't play. Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities either here. So Cantor's a risk. If everything goes right, though, and if we get 15 to 20-ish minutes from Cantor, I think he has upside to definitely get you 20-plus fantasy points. So a really risky play at 3-7. Last guy I'll mention is Brad Wanamaker. And this makes me want to throw up. But, I mean, there is literally no value. And he's at almost min price. With no Gordon Hayward, he played 18 minutes in those last couple of games. Those were close games, too. Those are not blowouts. So he's not getting like the blowout run. So it looks like we're going to get about 18 minutes from Brad Wanamaker. He's a viable dart throw. If you're going completely stars and scrubs, like I am today, then you have to take a shot on like a guy like this. Yeah, he is currently in my lineup, and I literally want to throw up just looking at it. Like, it is so gross. I do not feel comfortable at all. But what he does do is he opens up me to get other guys in my lineup. I can get Luka. I can get one of those Clippers guys. I can get Jamal Murray in. So, do I feel good about playing Brad Wanamaker? Absolutely not. Again, I want to throw up just looking at it. But at 3-3, if we get 18 minutes, I think he's a viable punt, right? I played Kem Birch last slate. I played Alex Caruso. Did I feel good about those guys? No, but it allowed me to get Anthony Davis in. It allowed me to get CJ and Nurkic in. So that's really what I got there for Boston. Let's talk about Toronto. Toronto, Siakam at 8-1, I'm probably going to pass on him. I know he had good games those last couple of games, finally, 45 and 47, but be careful here. That was against Brooklyn, and that last game, Kyle Lowry got injured. Fred VanVleet missed the whole first half due to foul trouble. So I am not going to chase that Siakam game. It's also a tougher spot, too. I feel more comfortable targeting the guards than Siakam. So Siakam is going to be a pass for me. Like, sure, he's still in play at 8-1, but just a contrarian option. I'm not going to get to him. Lowry and Fred VanVleet are the guys for me at both under 8K. Both will play about 40 minutes in a close game. Now, Lowry's dealing with an ankle injury. I think that's going to lower his ownership. So I think Fred VanVleet will be the highest owned guard, or the higher owned guard, I should say. I mean, you saw it with AD, right? He was dealing with back spasms the game before. This game came in at 7% ownership. I think the ankle injury will worry some people. There's no minutes limit. I just think the ownership drops in him a bit compared to Fred VanVleet. Both are very, very similar plays to me. Like, Lowry will play about 40 minutes, good point per minute guys. Same with Fred VanVleet. They're both do-it-all guys. Like, I like playing guys like this, so I have absolutely no issue with either Toronto guard. I think Fred VanVleet comes in maybe a little higher owned because shooting guard is not that great, and he does have shooting guard eligibility too. So I think both Toronto guys at under 8K are pretty solid plays. Ibaka is a guy I'm going to pass on at 6-2. I'm going to let others chase the big game. Again, he went absolutely off in 20 minutes. Well, first of all, that was against Brooklyn. Second of all, again, Lowry was out. Fred VanVleet was out that whole first half. So I would temper your expectations here. He's not a guy that's going to average like 3 fancy points a minute, right? He's going to play 25 minutes. This is a much tougher spot against Boston. Can he still get you there at 6-2? Yes, but I'm going to let others chase that. I'm not going to Ibaka. And I'm also not going to Norman Powell. In my opinion, it's an easy fade for me. Another play that I think people will chase. They will look at the last game, and they'll think they can get that similar production. Again, different circumstances. Lowry was out. Fred VanVleet foul trouble. Great matchup, too. This is not a good matchup against Boston. So, and he's only like, can Powell still get you there at 5-1? The answer is yes. He can come off the bench, and he has to hit his shots. If he's shooting the ball really well, they might extend him to like 30 minutes. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that he gets you there at 5-1, but I think the ownership might be slightly up. And I just feel like it's a chase. I feel like it's a chase on both Powell and Ibaka, so I'm going to pass on both of them. OG Anunoby's at 4-7. Like I said with Marcus Smart, like I'm going to say with Jeremy Grant, like I'm going to say with Royce O'Neill. If you land in there, these guys, they're fine. They are not out there for their offense. The minutes will be there. We'll get 30 to 35 minutes from OG Anunoby. I think he's an okay option just because there's not a lot of great value on this slate. So he probably gets somewhere between 20 to 25-ish fancy points. If you're fine with that, then it's fine with me. Again, I don't think he's really a bad play. I don't really think he's a good play. Gasol's at 3-9. I think we got to consider him for the reason of, again, there is no value. So the floor is actually still somewhat low on Gasol, and he is really a shell of his former self. He put up 6 fancy points there against Brooklyn. I think normally we probably get 15, like we're going to get about 20 minutes from Gasol, and we probably get 15 to 20 fancy points from him. If you're fine with that at 3-9, I think that's more than fine, right? I don't really think the upside is anything much higher than that. So I think he's in play for the reason of there is no value. And I'm not going to get to Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, RHJ. They'll play very little, if at all. So I'm not going with any of those guys. Let's talk about the Clippers. They're in the best spot here. 238.5 over under. Kawhi's at 10-1. It's a tricky one. Personally, I would rather get to Luka Doncic on the other side. I just feel like the upside is higher on a guy like Luka, whereas Kawhi, maybe you get that safety. Because even if the game blows out, he probably has a good hand of in that blowout, right? He'll probably have a good amount of points. So he could still technically get you there in 3 quarters. So that's why I think he might be safer than Luka, but I'm not going for safety on a slate like this. I've told you guys how I'm attacking the playoffs. I'm going high risk, high reward. So I prefer Luka Doncic to Kawhi in GPPs. I like his upside more. I think if you land on Kawhi for cash, that's more than fine at 10-1. Paul George is at 8-3. So he finally had a good shooting day. I was on him. Unfortunately, that game blew out when he had 42 fancy points in 25 minutes. But the upside is there, right? When he's shooting well, he can go for 50+, no doubt about it. So I like Paul George. I prefer him to Kawhi Leonard for the 2K discount. Sure, the risk is higher on Paul George, who's been struggling shooting the ball besides that last game, but for his price, I prefer Paul George to Kawhi Leonard. Lou Williams at 6'4", another high-risk, high-reward play. We are not getting him at a discount here at 6'4". Like, you're going to have to pay premium for Lou Williams. But what we know with Lou Williams is he has upside to get you 40, to get you 50 fantasy points. So it's a really risky one. The minutes have been up and down. I know the last game was a blowout, but still wasn't on pace to play huge minutes. Like, we probably get somewhere between 25 to 30 minutes from Lou Williams. In that time, he can go for 40 plus, for sure. So he's a riskier play for sure, but the upside is high. Like, of all the guys in the mid-range, in the 4, 5, 6K range, I think Lou Williams has the most upside. Now, sure, he probably is a lot riskier compared to some others, but he's the guy that has the most upside. So if you're shooting for the upside, like I am, then you can consider a guy like Lou Williams at 6'4". Marcus Morris at 5'7". This is another guy that, kind of like Marcus Smart, I'm fine with. I don't really think he's going to break the slate. We're going to get 32-ish minutes from him. He's been decent. Like, he probably gets somewhere between 25 to 30 fantasy points. So probably a safer option than Lou Williams. But in my opinion, Lou is the guy that has more upside compared to Marcus Morris. So if you're going for safety, it's Morris. If you're going for that high-risk, high-reward play, it's Lou Williams. Avicii Zubac at 4'6". I just don't know what Doc Rivers is going to do. I have absolutely no idea. He did play 24 minutes, and the game blew out. So maybe if it stayed close, he could have came back in. I don't know. I think we get somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes. If he hits the higher end of the minutes, if he hits close to 30, I think he could crush his salary. So I like Zubac. I'm willing to take the risk and hope that Doc Rivers doesn't screw me. Knowing that, Doc, every single time I've gotten him wrong with his minutes, like I played him when he had 18, I faded him when he got 30. So with me playing him today, he's probably going to play like 15 minutes. But I think if things go right and he gets close to 30, he could crush his salary. Now, Montrez, in my opinion, this feels a little bit like chasing. He had most, if not all, of that production in garbage time, going up against the scrubs of Dallas. So we're not going to get that again where Montrez is out there with guys like Terrence Mann and Amir Coffey and Rodney McGruder, right, where he just demands all the usage. If this game stays close, he's going to be playing alongside those high-usage guys. Now, sure, if you're playing the blowout factor, then it could make sense. Right? If you think this game blows out, then I think you can target a guy like Montrez, who will play most of the game in garbage time. Finally, the point guards, or the cheap guards. Reggie and Shamet, this is strictly dependent on Pat Beverly news, and this is pretty big. He was upgraded to questionable. If Pat Beverly plays, that takes Reggie and Shamet out of play. If Pat Beverly plays and plays like 20 minutes, he himself would be a viable punt. If he's out, then Reggie and Shamet, both below 4K, are viable plays. I don't feel great about it, but we probably get over 20 minutes from both of these guys in a good matchup. And there's no value, so you have to consider these guys if Pat Beverly's out. Finally, let's go to Dallas here. We got about 10 minutes left, so I got to hurry it up. Luka at 11-2. He is my favorite spend up. I know the risk is there's a slight chance this game does not stay close like that last game, but the upside is literally 80 to 90 fantasy points. And if Dallas has any shot of staying in this game, it's going to be because of a big game from Luka Doncic. I'm willing to take the risk. I just think his upside is the highest out of anyone on the slate by far with no Porzingis. I'm not going to get to THJ at 6K, too scoring dependent for me. Kleber's at 5'2". We're not really getting him at a discount. He'll play 35 minutes. Probably get somewhere around 20 fancy points. I guess he's okay. I'm not going to get to DFS at 5K. Trey Burke's at 4'8". Seth Curry's at 4'5". These guys have to hit their shots. If they're not hitting their shots, their floor is really low. Trey Burke will be more popular than Seth Curry. If you want to get the lower own play, it's Seth Curry compared to Trey Burke, who had a terrible shooting day and 5 fancy points. But the upside is like about 30 on both these guys. So they're riskier plays. They literally have to hit their shots. Finally, Boban's at 4K. He'll play somewhere around 15 minutes. He's a good point per minute guy. Now, he had a bad day that last game. Only in 17 minutes, only 10 fancy points. That is not great for Boban. But I think what that last game will do it'll lower the ownership a bit on him. So, if we get 15 minutes from Boban, he can definitely go for 25 fancy points. and a slate that has very, very little value, I still have interest in Boban. It's a riskier play because the minutes won't be high, but I think he's viable. DeLon Wright, not going to get to him. I guess he's a dart throw if you think the game blows out. He'll play in garbage time. MKG, ugh, absolutely not. Would only consider him if like DFS is out, but looks like I think they're all going to be good with DFS, Hardaway, and Luka. Let's talk about Denver, Utah here. So Denver, it's Jokic, Jamal Murray for me. We know where the offense is coming from. It's those two guys. Both of them played huge minutes. 43 for Jokic, and how many did Jamal Murray play? 41. Like the minutes are going to be massive on these guys. Jamal Murray is going to be more popular, and this is tricky because I don't like playing guys usually after big games because the ownership is going to be way higher, and we saw it that last game. The ownership was like more than double on Jamal Murray than it was Nikola Jokic. And in the first half, he wasn't great. I think he only had like 15 fantasy points, but then just absolutely took over and could not miss a shot. So the range of outcomes for Jamal Murray is super hot, right? It's like 20 fantasy point floor, 80 fantasy point upside. So he is a risky play. The 8.6 price point, I don't feel good about it. But what we're going to get is with Michael Porter Jr. playing off the bench, it's Jokic, it's Murray. That's where the offense is coming from in the starting unit. And Murray has that ability to take over in late games like he did the last couple of times. So it's a tricky one. I don't like playing guys normally after big games, but this might be one where I go to Jamal Murray. I think the ownership will be up, but maybe not super high because of the 8.6 price point. So it's a tricky one. Jokic I still like too. If you want a piece of Denver and you want to get different, it's Jokic. Like Jamal Murray is still going to be higher owned than Nikola Jokic. Jokic is maybe your safer option, right? I don't think he's going to have a floor of like 20. He probably has a floor of like 35 to 40, whereas Murray, the floor is a little bit lower, but Murray has the more upside, right? We've seen it the last couple of games. So if you want a piece of Denver and you want to get a bit different, or if you want the safer piece, I get it is Nikola Jokic. And just center is not that great today. MPJ off the bench, I have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. If he comes off the bench and plays well, he will get extended. If not, he could play 15 minutes. So Denver's rotations are, I put my hands in the air because I have no idea what Mike Malone is going to do. So it's a risky play. If everything goes right and he gets 30-plus minutes, he can get you there at 5-5. Millsap, I just can't do it. 18, 17, 35, and then 19. Now, if he played 35 minutes, he could get you there, but I mean, just who knows what the hell Mike Malone's going to do. I have absolutely no idea. Grant, I feel a little bit more comfortable with because he played 36 and 40 last couple games. But we have Gary Harris that looks like on track to play. That would take a hit to like basically all these guys, like a slight hit. So, yeah, 4.8, I guess he's fine, but you don't feel great about it. And again, Mike Malone's his coach, so you just never really know with the minutes. We have Gary Harris expected to play. I have no idea what his minutes are going to be, if he's going to start, like what the situation is. If he starts and is not going to be limited and gets like 30 minutes, then I think he's a good value play. But this is something we'll have to keep an eye on. Unfortunately, it's a late game, and we're probably not going to get that news for a while. That takes Monte Morris out of play for me. If Gary Harris plays, I'm not playing Monte Morris. I just can't do it. And then that takes P.J. Dozier as a complete punt play out of play. I don't think P.J. Dozier plays if Gary Harris plays. I'm not going to play Torrey Craig. Don't play Mason Plumlee. Not enough minutes. Finally, Utah. So Utah's a team I'm not super high on for their prices. Mitchell's at 9.7. If you wanted that Mitchell, Jamal Murray stack, I don't hate that idea because both guys take over in the fourth quarter. It just, 9.7 is not a great discount for him. Now, we can still go for 50+, 60+, but I prefer Luka Doncic. I prefer the Clippers stars. I prefer Jamal Murray for less than Donovan Mitchell. So Mitchell's going to be low-owned. Just a contrarian play for me right now. I'm not going to get to Rudy Gobert. In my opinion, that's an easy fade at 7.8K. What he needs to get you there is like 3 blocks and 3 steals for him to have a really big game. So I'm not going to rely on that. He's not an offensive center. I'm just not playing Rudy Gobert. Conley's at 6.6. Sure, fine. He'll play 34 minutes. He'll probably get 30 to 35 fantasy points. There's my breakdown of Mike Conley. Ingles at 5.4. Been a little bit up and down. If he shoots the ball well, can go for 25 to 30. Again, I think he's okay, but don't really feel amazing about it. Clarkson off the bench. I mean, I think the upside's a bit higher in a guy like Lou Williams. Both will play similar minutes. Clarkson is super, super scoring dependent. So if you're going for one of those risky guys off the bench and you can't get to Lou, I guess it's okay to get to Clarkson, but I would rather pay a little bit more for Lou Williams. I know his upside's a bit higher. Royce O'Neill's at 4.6. Again, is fine. He'll play 35-plus minutes. He can get you 25 to 30 fantasy points. He's not out there for his offense. He's a fine play. Last guy I'll mention is Gorgeous Niang. It's a dart throw right now. He'll play about 15 to 18 minutes would be my best guess. Can get like 15 or so fantasy points, but also has a floor of like 5 fantasy points. So it's a super risky dart throw. And that's really what I got. So let me refresh Fantasy Labs, and then we'll get to questions here. All right, so let's do it. Let's get to some questions. Real quick again, guys, if you could leave a like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, it would really, really help me out. MPJ or Ingles. I guess your cash play is Ingles because the minutes are secure, whereas MPJ is probably your GPP option. Gary Harris or Shamet, it depends on the Gary Harris news. I don't know what I need to see news in Gary Harris, so I can't really do it. Let's see, Lowry or Fred VanVleet in GPP. Well, Lowry's going to be lower owned. So Lowry and GPP both are almost identical plays to me. And in GPP, I always go with a lower owned guy if they're very similar. So I'll go Lowry over Fred VanVleet in GPP, just for the ownership. DK, Gary Harris or Shamet. Again, I need to see the Gary Harris news, how many minutes he's going to play, if he's going to start. So I can't really answer that at the moment. Luka, more upside. Let's see. Any interest in Beverly or Niang if going stars and scrubs? Yeah, I mean, Pat Beverly is a guy I would look to if he plays. Probably gets 20 minutes, so we'll consider him. Niang, I mean, I currently have him in my lineup too, just because I'm going superstars and scrubs. I really do not feel good about that. Like, if Pat Beverly plays, I'd rather get to Pat Bev. Lowry or Fred VanVleet, again, it's going to be Lowry just so he's going to be lower owned. Both are almost identical. DK, you playing Tice for value? I think Tice is a safer option. You've already got Wanamaker. I mean, Wanamaker's a gross play. I have him in, but I literally do not feel good at all about it. Cora, it kind of depends, right? Because how are you attacking the slate? If you're going for upside, then you're going to want to get risky like I am. So if you're doing that, then I'm going Luka. I'm going Paul George. I'm going Jamal Murray. And this is a GPP lineup. So if you're going GPPs, those are the stars that I like for GPPs, going complete stars and scrubs. If you're going cash games, if you're going for safety, then I think you go I think you go something like this. I think you go Kemba. I think you go a guy like Fred VanVleet. And then maybe still Luka because of the ups, or Kawhi. Maybe Kawhi because he's, I guess, slightly safer. So if you're going for like a cash game setting, that probably looks good for cash. Whereas the guys I mentioned in GPP, Luka, Paul George, Jamal Murray, they're riskier plays, but I'm not playing the slate for safety. I'm going super high risk, high reward. Full game stack, Denver, Utah. You can do it. Not saying it's out of play. I love Tatum today. Tatum will be low owned. He will. So I don't hate the idea of going to him in GPPs. Kemba, Kawhi for safety. Yep, I agree. Right, Kemba, Kawhi Leonard. I think it's Kemba, Kawhi Leonard, Fred VanVleet. If you're going for like a cash game setting, I think that looks good. Tice, Gasol, or Boban. I think Tice is your cash game play because the minutes will be the highest on him. So if you're going for safety, Tice. I guess if you're going for the risky GPP play, Boban. But yeah, I think Tice of those three guys is the safest option. My lineup is Lowry, Brown, OG, Morris, Kleber, Burke, Grant, and Jokic. Yeah, so you're going a little bit more balanced. I'm fine with that. Boban's viable for sure. I played Cantor and Wanamaker. Ooh, that is good luck to you, sir. There's a decent chance Cantor. I mean, not a decent chance. I would say probably about 10% chance he just gets a DNP. How does this look, DK? Let's see. Murray, Clarkson, Luka, OG, Zubac, Wanamaker, PG-13, and Boban. Yeah, so that's more of a GPP option, right? GPP lineup, because obviously Murray is super high variance. Clarkson is scoring dependent. Wanamaker is just ugly. And then Boban is super risky too. What is cash game? Cash games are 50-50s and double ups. So cash games, you don't care at all about ownership. You just want to play the optimal lineup. Like in GPPs, ownership matters, right? Because if you have two similar plays and one's going to be 50% owned and one's going to be 10% owned, well, you want to go with the guy that's going to be 10% owned, so you have an advantage to the field, right? So Tice 43% my GPP. Yeah, I mean, I knew he was going to be a pretty popular play because there's like literally no value. So let me take a look at the $100 tournament here and go over some ownership. So I have Brad Wanamaker at 1%. I literally feel terrible about that because I do not want to play him. But again, I'm not going for safety on this slate. Gasol 21%, Ibaka 11%, OG is 26%, Tatum's 15%, kind of expected. Van Fleet's 25%. Let me see what Daniel Tice is. Kemba is 39%, right? So I said he would be the cash game play. That makes sense that he's the highest owned of the Boston guys. I'm not really surprised about that. Siakam 16%, I'm okay getting away from that. Powell 10%, I'm okay getting away from that. Daniel Tice 54% owned. So am I surprised about Tice being 54%? No. But I'm also okay getting away from 54% owned Daniel Tice. So DK, you want Wanamaker? Yeah, I mean, I'm going complete stars and scrubs. So, I mean, I played Kem Birch and I played Alex Caruso last slate. It can't get much worse for me, right? So, Wanamaker 4.5 points. Would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Brad Wanamaker gets me 5 points. Would not be surprised at all. Did you get any Raptors? No. I'm going basically a complete stack of the Clippers and Mavs game. So, I'm playing Luka. I'm playing Paul George. I'm playing Zubac. And then I'm running it back with the late night hammer of Jamal Murray. I would have reconstructed to get Wanamaker out. Yeah, if I'm going for safety, of course. But Ibaka only 19%. I'm completely fine getting away from that. I think it's chasing, in my opinion. Murray, Luka, Tice, Boban, Wanamaker, PG, and Reggie. I mean, yeah, so you kind of got a similar build to me. Don't feel good about it, I'll tell you that much. Thoughts and pivot from Kawhi Leonard to Jokic and bring it back with Paul George. Yeah, I mean, I think that looks good. I don't really know what the rest of your lineup looks like, but I'm okay with Jokic. He's probably the safer option of him and Jamal Murray. And Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, I just think I slightly prefer Paul George for his price. I know he's been bad, but I would rather get the 2K discount there with Paul George. Who do you have done playing golf this week? I'd answer Woodland. Who do I have? I don't think I'm gonna cash. Man, that was an ugly. I'm kind of close. I have Xander, Finau, Adam Scott, Woodland, Answer, and Sunjay M. Kemba only 10% owned in my GPP. Yeah, that is a bit surprising. I mean, he was pretty high owned. Him and Tice, which I was not surprised about being chalk, were the chalkiest guys in the $100 tournament. Kemba 40%, Tice 54%. I think Fred VanVleet should smash your massive minutes and has stepped up. Yeah, I mean, I liked Fred VanVleet was the cash play, right? So I liked Fred VanVleet. You almost had that takedown yesterday. SGA killed me too. Yeah, I mean, if SGA has a normal game or just a below average game, I probably win that GPP. DK, Ingles, or Boban. Ingles for cash games. Boban, well, they're different prices, right? So if you can get to Ingles, just go Ingles. I'm rolling with Murray, Smart, PG-13, Tice, Zubac, VanVleet, Shamet, and Walker. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a safer build. I like that. Kemba, Fred VanVleet combo for 90 plus. Would not be surprised about that. Sorry, Ingles or Clarkson? It's a tricky one because Ingles really hasn't been that safe. Like, he has a somewhat low floor too. Clarkson's super score independent. If you're going for the upside, I guess it's Clarkson for me. Maybe either way. I don't know. Zubac scares me. He scares me too. Doc Rivers, I have no idea what he's going to do. Seeing Lowry at 5% makes me want him. Yeah, I mean, that's why I liked Kyle Lowry, because I knew he'd be low owned with that ankle, right? So that's why he was my GPP play as compared to Fred VanVleet being my cash game play. Kemba, Fave, Fred VanVleet, Paul George, Grant, Jokic, Beverly, Tice, Zubac, cash. Yeah, I think that looks good. I have a risky one here. Let's see. Kemba, Fred VanVleet, Brown, MKG. Oh man, I don't MKG. That is whew. Yeah, I mean, I think you need Dorian Finney-Smith to be out. That is a really, really gross play. Jokic, Jamal Murray, Brad Wanamaker, and yeah, that is. I don't even know if I can look at that. Brown and Kemba were 31% owned today. Yeah, if they're both similar ownerships, then I would have preferred Kemba to Brown. Jokic worth 9,500. I think he's a safer option, but I don't know if he has the massive upside. I mean, we haven't seen. He does have it in him, but like, I think I like the upside on other guys a bit more. So I think he's a good option if you can get to him, but maybe not a guy that's going to break the slate. We'll see. Like he did, like the first quarter of that last game, he was on pace to break the slate, and then he kind of disappeared. Of course, being in my lineup, Lou Will or Conley and GPP. I think Conley's just safer either way than Lou Williams. And they have, I mean, maybe Conley doesn't have as much upside, but I think for safety, it's Mike Conley. Even in a GPP, it's tricky. Like Lou Williams is going to be low owned, so I don't know what the rest of your lineup looks like. Harrell, I'm going to pass on. He smashed in garbage time. If this game stays close, he'll be playing alongside high usage guys, and still his minutes aren't crazy. So I would rather get to Zubac than Harrell right now. We'll see. Doc Rivers could always change it up because whenever I play Zubac, he plays like no minutes. I was considering Smart. Glad I faded 30% owned. I'm fine getting away from that. Don't forget, I played Wanamaker and Cantor. I would probably rather play Wanamaker and Cantor than whoever had, what was it, MKG and Torrey Craig. Niang. I have gorgeous Niang in my lineup. If Pat Beverly plays, I might try to get him in instead. Or I guess I could go Shamet, I think. I don't know. I might still rearrange my lineup. It is not... Well, I guess I don't have a power forward, so... Niang, the floor is literally like 5 fancy points, so can't feel good about it. Keep up the good work and good luck today. Takedown season coming. Hey, appreciate that, man. Thoughts on Burke, Brown, Luka, Royce, Gasol, Kemba, Grant, Lou Williams? That's fine. Today's an ugly slate. Super ugly. Who's your top value today? Who breaks the slate? My top value? I mean, for safety, my top value was probably Tyson, but he's, again, already locked. There's no real standout value. I'll go Avicii Zubac, but that's assuming he gets the minutes. He could still play like 20 minutes. If Avicii Zubac gets closer to 30 minutes, I think he could break the slate at 4.6K. Like he could go for 35 plus. Kleber, ugly play, but should get those minutes. I agree. Like Kleber will play 35 minutes. I don't think he's going to break the slate. I think he gets around 20-ish fancy points. DK, what do you think about Murray, Lou Will, Luka, Niang, Cantor, PG13, and Zubac? Yeah, that is like literally almost identical to what I have. It is super, super high risk. Super, super high risk. Like what I'm hoping for, if I do stick with a guy like Niang, is I just need him to get like 12 to 15 fancy points. If he can get me that and my stars crush, then I'm in okay shape. Murray, Clarkson, Grant, O'Neill. Murray, Clarkson, Grant, O'Neill, Zubac, Lou Will, George, and Conley. Yeah, I think that looks like a safer lineup, right? So I think that looks good. Also, just realized I could have played Tyson instead of Cantor. I have salary left over. I mean, yeah, I would have rather got to Tyson just because the Mets are safer on him. But, all right, guys, I think I'm going to head out here. Again, a super, super gross slate. Probably not going to be a great day for me because I went super, super high risk. But we'll see. You never know. So thanks again, guys. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.